All right. Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of NFL 101. Really quick, insert transition noises here. Now, again, insert transition noises here. Alright, welcome to episode 6. This is your basic guide to NFL penalties. What they are, well, a basic guide of what they are, um, uh, you know, what happens when a penalty is called, and maybe even some off the field repercussions that could happen. Now, let's start with basically, you guys gotta know I gotta pull up my notes because if I don't, I'll get lost. So, basically, a penalty, again, penalties are something that happen across all sports. And if every sport handles it differently, whether there's on-field punishment or off-field punishment. Now, basically, the way the NFL handles it is what happens when a penalty is going to be called is you will see a ref pull out a yellow flag and throw it onto the field of play. That's what happens. You will throw it onto the field, and then since there are more than one ref on the field, this is gonna make me explain what refs are really quick, or how ref teams it. Hi Nathan.
I didn't do anything.
Don't throw the octopus at me.
I won't.
I'm actually live.
Okay.
Nathan's being a child.
I'm not doing anything.
Of course
I
you
don't
are.
do anything.
I think I caught him before he tried to prank me on camera.
Yeah.
Did you just confirm it?
What?
I love you, Nathan.
You too, buddy.
We like each other. Platonically. Mostly. You can tell we have a good relationship. Anyway. So, where was I? Before distracting Miss Prime. You missed! He missed! See you later, distracting Miss Prime. We have a good relationship, y'all. Anyway, so NFL refs. There's usually, I think there's a team of 4 on the field if I remember correctly. You'll be able to see them. Most of the refs have a black cap on. However, there is one ref that will have a white cap on. That's usually somewhere in the middle of the field. Not obstructing play, but he's usually somewhere where he can show himself. This is the ref that has the mic, and you can see him like me and Nathan do. If you go back to see our last podcast episode, you'll see me doing it. But he'll turn on. He has a mic much like ours. And when a penalty is called, you'll see him reach down, turn on the mic, call the penalty. That's what happens. So, yellow flag comes out. A ref in a black cap will go to the ref with the white cap, tell him what the penalty is. The ref with the white cap, turn on the microphone, call, holding, false start, whatever the penalty is. Now, as far as an in-depth guide to each penalty, I'm not going to give you that in this episode, but I will give you try and give you a guide to some of the penalties as this series continues. Now, so that's what a penalty is. It's an illegal action on the field basically. That's basic. That's basic. The first basics of it. Um, Now, in terms of certain penalties, like some of the more serious ones, like roughing the quarterback, roughing the kicker, um, you some of the other more serious ones, um, ones that could get players ejected from the game, there are a lot more requirements than that. Um, I will say this: for a player to get ejected from a game, most of the time they will have already committed one serious penalty, and the coach is warned. The coaching staff is warned, the player is warned, and the head ref will usually say player number 32 or whatever the player's number is. Player number 32 has been warned that if another penalty will cause an immediate ejection. Now, there are certain penalties that will get a player ejected immediately, but those are rare, and it usually involves two players that get ejected simultaneously. Those are usually those of actual like fights of people like actually throwing hands and punching people. By the way, this is what Nathan threw at me. I'm gonna throw it back at him when he's doing something. I don't know. Probably while he's recording one of his nerd herds. We'll find out. But he won't. Anyway. Gotta hide it. Anyway, so that there are some requirements. So I mentioned roughing the passer and roughing the kicker. So most of you all know, or I hope you know by now, that football or American football is a high contact sport. Now, what does that mean? Most NFL, not most NFL, most sports have some amount of contact, whether that's baseball, basketball, hockey. But when I say a high contact sport, that means most of the action that happens in an NFL game, it has some form of contact in it. That's just how the game works. There's just a lot of contact in the game. So when a contact penalty, such as roughing the passer or roughing the kicker, take place, it's usually up to the discretion of the. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Excuse me, guys. Things are happening. You all should know, if you're regular viewers on this channel, you all should know that my body betrays me constantly. Anyway, so when like I was saying, when a contact penalty happens, it's usually up to the judgment of the ref, and it's usually up to the judgment of the closest ref. So, not every penalty you see will be roughing the passer. Not every penalty you'll see will be holding. Not every penalty you'll see will be pass interference, because those are all contact plays. So, what are some? So that brings us to what some of the punishments are for some of these penalties. The most common punishment is a yardage punishment. So the way an NFL offense has to work is they have to move down the field in 10-yard increments until they either score a touchdown, a field goal, or are stopped. But you have to get, so you usually start, an NFL offense will usually start on its own 25-ish. It really depends. And from there, it'll move It'll go from there, from the 25-yard line. It'll go to the 35 where they have to make it before they get a new set of downs and be able to continue down to be able to score. Now, this is where penalties, the yardage comes in on penalties. Because if a ref sees a penalty, either by the offense or by the defense, that can move the offense forward or back a certain number of yards. Some of the more, like I said, there are more serious penalties. So the more serious penalties will usually get 15 yards. Some of the less serious penalties, like false start or neutral zone infraction, usually get 5 yards. So, if let's say a penalty is seen, the flag is thrown, and the penalty call is roughing the passer because a D lineman had been, in the ref's opinion, the defense had roughed the quarterback too much. That's 15 yards for the offense. So they move 15 yards forward they move from the 25 to the 40, I think. Yep, they move to the 40. That's an infinitely better position to be in. Sorry if the camera shakes because I'm getting passionate. That's an infinitely better position to be in for the offense. And it puts the defense in kind of a bind. Because instead of, stopping them on the 25 or moving them back even, you just gave them 15 free yards. Now, there are also things called spot fouls. This is usually reserved for things like pass interference. And I think sometimes holding can be in this. So, let's say a receiver is 30 yards downfield. The quarterback tries to throw it to him, but the defense interferes. Pass interference. The refs then could call spot foul, pass interference, defense, and move them 30 yards towards the defense's end zone. That's also a fine. So penalties, the more serious the penalty is, my point is, the more serious the penalty, the worse it is for the team that committed the penalty. So, again, most of the time when penalties are committed, it's in terms of yardage, so it's ball positioning is all it is. Now, I mentioned this earlier. If the penalty is serious enough, two things can happen. Well, one thing can happen in two different ways, I should say. I mentioned ejection before, but if the penalty is serious enough, like one player is intentionally trying to injure another player and it's just obvious and out there and everyone can see it, usually that player is ejected immediately. Again, there are some penalties that if players sort of get tangled up and they're just sitting there like pushing around each other, usually that will result in a penalty and a warning. But if there's actually like fists being thrown, usually both players get ejected and then there's some off-field issues that need to happen, which is a brilliant transition to the off-the-field punishments that can happen. So, when the penalty on the field is serious enough, this usually only happens when a player is ejected. Usually. There are some times when a player still plays in the game, but Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, still thinks he should face something. So usually most off-the-field punishments result in fines, which basically means the NFL higher ups, like the commissioner, say your conduct on the field was unbecoming, pay X amount of money, and then you'll be good. So that's what usually happens, and the player can usually just keep on playing. However, there are some instances where a player is suspended, as well as paying a fine. So, and I keep mentioning them because this is really the only case, the most. This is usually what happens the most amount of time. So when two players get in a fight, usually there's a fine for both, and whoever comes out as the initiator or the instigator or the one who did the most damage usually is suspended for at least 1 or 2 games. Now again, suspensions are more complicated than that, and I will get to suspensions for off the field issues in another episode, in another video. But that's really what it is. Um, Games for in-game penalties usually it's a suspension, and then it's usually a fine, and then if it's serious enough, a suspension. Now, that's uh, an example of somebody committing an on the field or having an on the field issue that ended up getting them a suspension is Deflategate. Tom Brady was suspected of deflating footballs in a football game. Now, the NFL investigated, found him guilty basically, and then was like, okay, you serve X game suspension. Now, again, suspensions are usually reserved for off the field issues and are usually decided before the NFL season. Now, that's basically all I had for this episode. That's your basic guide to NFL penalties and what they usually look like, and some of the punishments involved, even then. I would say go check out the Patreon, but I forgot to put the link in the episode description. But it is linked on other videos, and I believe it is linked on the channel description as well. So, you guys have a good day. I will see you in the next video. Again, intro, transition, noises here. See you guys later. If you liked the video, like. If you didn't like, I'm sorry. Subscribe if you feel that too. See you guys later.